What is up, guys? Dazed here, and today I'm going to be showing you a fun Witch Doctor build that has been going around after the recent changes from patch 1.08. Now, one of the changes they have made is to the skill Firebats, and for this build I will be using Firebats as my primary damage dealing skill. For my secondary skill, I'm going to be using Locust Swarm with Pestilence. This is to pull mobs to me so that I can use Firebats to deal damage. We'll also be using Spirit Walk with Jaunt just to move around the map faster and to escape certain elite groups. I'll be using Soul Harvest with Vengeful Spirit just to get those extra stacks of intelligence so I can do more damage while I'm stationary. Speaking of stationary, I'll also be using Big Bad Voodoo. Since I will be standing still, I will be utilizing this to do additional damage while I'm standing there. Now the interesting skill here is Sacrifice, which I will be using Pride for just to get additional mana, and I will show you how that works in the build. Now you will notice my first passive here is Circle of Life. This is one of the reasons I'm using Sacrifice. Since I will be stationary, I will be killing enemies around me, so I'm going to be utilizing my passives to make the most of this. Because of this, I will also be using Grave Injustice. And lastly, I will be using Gruesome Feast just to get additional intelligence and more mana. There is one piece of gear that I would highly suggest for this build, and that is going to be Thing of the Deep, the offhand that does give you an increased gold and health pickup radius of 20 yards. The reason for this is you do want to utilize your passives to their maximum benefit. I did also grab it here on another piece of gear. You can try to grab it on either the belt or the bracers or kind of whatever works for you. Just with my current gear setup, this is where I grabbed it, was on the belt, but I think the bracers would be another great place to grab it as well. Alright guys, so let's get right into the Fields of Misery so I can show you how the build works and give you kind of a quick preview of what you need to be doing with this build and just how efficient it is. So the first thing you're going to notice about this build is it works really well in large clusters of groups. You're going to want to aggro as much of the mobs as you can towards you. Then you're going to want to use Soul Harvest to get the 5 stacks of intelligence, so you're going to do increased damage. Now, I would suggest getting some kind of lifesteal with this build, since you will be standing still and channeling Firebats. Having some kind of health still will allow you to kind of tank while you're dealing damage, since you'll be able to mitigate any damage that you're taking by the health that you're gaining. Basically, you're going to go around and use Soul Harvest to get your extra stacks of intelligence, which is also going to increase your damage, which is also going to increase the amount of life that you're getting back from Firebats. One of the things that this build does suffer from is the ability to generate mana. Because of this, you do have to be pretty smart about how you use your skills, and you do have to pay attention to when you have zombie dogs and how low your mana is when you're channeling Firebats. One of the great things about this build is that your passives are really going to do a lot of the work for you. Now, like I had mentioned earlier, this entire build is almost based off of gold and health globe pickup radius, and each of these skills is going to utilize this in a different way. The main way that it's going to utilize it is increased damage output. You're going to be basically going into groups, and it's going to feel like a burst build because you're going to be going in, spamming a few skills, but your passives are really going to be doing a lot of the work behind the scenes. Now, what I mean by this is whenever you do use Firebats, the interesting thing about your passives is that they're going to naturally increase your damage as you kill enemies because of the increase to gold and health pickup radius. The second thing that really benefits this build is a little bit of mana regeneration, but mainly that your skills are going to have reduced cooldowns based on how many enemies you kill that are within that radius. Because of this, the build does feel a little bit like the little brother to the CM Wizard build. And it is a lot of fun to burst into groups using Spirit Walk, then using Soul Harvest to increase your stacks, blowing up your zombie dogs to get additional mana. If you do have Big Bad Voodoo off of cooldown, you can use this when you hit large groups, or save it for that like absolutely epic pull where you have 40-50 monsters at once. You can get that increased damage, pull everything in with Pestilence, and use Firebats to really finish the job. One of my favorite things about the build is the versatility of it, allowing you to play single player and absolutely shred packs of enemies, but also to hop into multiplayer and have the ability to really benefit the team play. One of the reasons for this is going to be Big Bad Voodoo. This allows your team to have increased DPS as long as they're standing within the radius of Big Bad Voodoo. Another thing is with Locust Swarm and Pestilence specifically, this allows you to have a little bit of crowd control when you're playing multiplayer and either aggro specific packs or aggro the whole map if your team just kind of wants a fun, epic, huge monster massacre. Another thing that I would like to highlight is kind of the versatility overall of the build. You can approach several situations in several different fashions, giving the build a lot of variety and making it a lot of fun. You can either approach packs and use Soul Harvest to get increased intelligence. You can lead with Big Bad Voodoo, pulling other packs to other packs and using Firebats to do massive damage. You can lead with Pestilence and then move to another pack and use Firebats to deal damage to them, pulling the pack behind them to you to get increased efficiency with killing packs, which is going to be a great thing for doing speed runs when you just want to aggro a lot of groups, kill as many of them as possible, and move along with whatever you're doing, whether it's experience grinding or going through specific quests or trying to get legendaries, whatever it is that you're farming for. This really allows you to be extremely efficient by pulling as many groups as possible and allowing you to kill as many monsters as you can in as short as time as possible. Oh, and did I mention that it's a lot of fun? Well, I think that's going to do it for me, guys. Please leave me any questions or suggestions you might have about the build. If you've seen a different version of the build that's able to generate mana and works more efficiently than this, please let me know. If you have any questions specifically about any of the skills or the build overall, if you're having any trouble on any specific monster power, feel free to send me a message or leave a comment below, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you guys. Thank you so much for your time. As always, guys, good luck and happy hunting.